So I was talking to a buddy the other day, and he mentioned that he wanted to start an automotive YouTube channel. We chatted a bit about the things that I thought I've learned in the time doing it, and it kind of made me realize like I've never really sat back and thought about what I would do differently if I were to start a channel today and do it all over again. So here it is. You want to start an automotive YouTube channel. But before you do, let me save you a ton of money, time, and frustration. I've been in the automotive YouTube scene since 2020, and I've made plenty of mistakes, so you don't have to. Stick around. At the end of the video, I'll share my exact equipment recommendations and the tools you need to edit without breaking the bank. So step number 1, do not spend any money. I cannot stress this enough. Do not spend any money whatsoever when you start your channel. Do not go out and commit to a $25,000 build. Don't buy 15 GoPros. Do not subscribe to Adobe Premiere. And don't buy a $3,000 PC to edit all your videos on. And here's the truth. Most of your audience is going to be like us. They're going to be working with a budget, and they're going to be wrenching on anything they can afford. There are way more people searching for how to install cold air intake on a Honda Civic than there are looking for a full body swap on an old Saab 9.2. There is no reason to not start small. Use your cell phone and use a free editing app that puts a freaking watermark on your videos. Only scale up when you absolutely need to scale up. Number 2, set up your brand. Now, I learned this lesson the hard way. I rebuilt my brand multiple times in the past 5 years. Because of that, I realized that branding does matter, but you do not need to overthink it. You don't need a perfect logo. You don't need the exact right font. You don't need to do some sort of psychological analysis of the color scheme. You need something recognizable. You need something unique. Whether that's a cool channel name, a specific editing style, or even a signature way to start or stop your videos. Put some thought into it. Take it from me, you don't want to keep relaunching your channel with different names and styles. It's better to get it mostly right from the start. All right, number 3, stockpile content before you launch. One of the biggest mistakes I made was thinking I had time to work on cars, film videos, edit the videos, and work a full-time job. Spoiler alert, I did not. The chances are you aren't going to be able to either. So I think before you even hit publish on your first video, you should stockpile content. And I would say aim for at least 5 to 6 videos. That way you're not scrambling to make the next one. Now on that note, in my experience, automotive content generally falls into one of 3 categories on YouTube. You've got informative content. Now this is like how-tos, build series, and repair guides. And you've got action content. And that's like races, challenges, test drives, things like that. And then you've got news and discussion. And that's kind of like this, a talking head video, podcasts, or like reaction videos. Now, if you make at least 2 videos of each of those categories, you'll give the algorithm options to figure out where your audience is. Plus, you'll buy yourself time to keep filming and stay consistent. All right, number 4 is going to be to plan everything and not freak out when it goes wrong. So let's be real here. Something will go wrong almost every single time. Your car might break, the GoPro might overheat, parts definitely aren't going to show up on time, and even if they do, they're probably not going to fit. Having a plan and a backup plan, in my opinion, is the difference between consistency and burnout. Planning helps you keep a steady upload schedule, always have content ready, and generally avoid the stress of last-minute filming or adjustments. Now, even if the algorithm doesn't pick your video up right away, having a plan is always going to be a win. Can't control what YouTube is going to push, but you can control what you yourself output. And by having a plan, it should keep you in the game long enough to allow your channel to grow and start getting picked up by the algorithm. Now, time for number 5. You are the content, not just the cars. This is the first thing I said to my friend when they said they wanted to start an automotive YouTube. And I still think this is probably the most important piece of advice I can give to anyone that is starting a YouTube channel. Because the accessibility is so high, anybody can start making videos. Anybody can start posting videos. There are 10 people doing the same thing on YouTube right now. Your personality is what is going to make people subscribe, not just the cars that you're working on. If you think about the biggest automotive YouTubers, like sure, they build cool stuff, but people come back because of them. whether that's their humor, their style, or the way they tell stories. And that doesn't mean you have to be over the top and play a character. I think in general, you just have to be genuine and maybe add 10% on top of that to let your personality shine through. And I think that's eventually what makes an audience connect with you. And at the end of the day, that's what builds a loyal community and a following for your automotive YouTube. In fact, ultimately, I think it doesn't matter what you do with cars at all. I think your personality is the number one tool that turns your automotive YouTube from a hobby into a full-time gig. Now you know how to start an automotive YouTube channel without wasting a ton of money or getting burned out early on in the process. Now, I promised you I'd talk about gear and what software we use, so let's jump into that real quick. First off, probably 95% of my content is made using an iPhone. Any smartphone nowadays has really good cameras, and they have special modes that work for different shots, and ultimately they're just really useful. They're actually really helpful because they can fit in small places. You can not only use it for video, but you can get really good pictures using them, and all of you, like 99% of you, are already going to own one. The other thing is that this also gives you access to your editing software. Now, generally speaking, I use InShot Pro, which I pay for. There's a free version of it that's watermarked like any other countless good editing apps. You have CapShot. You can even really use TikTok technically, and then download your videos using a TikTok downloader if you want. I'm going to tell you guys right now, like if you generally look at automotive YouTube, that space is not always filled with cinematic shots. So the reality is the level of editing software you need is really about your personal taste and your style. I don't think people on YouTube are expecting your videos to look like they came out of Discovery Studios. So ultimately, any of these decent apps on your phone are going to be relatively cheap, if not free, and they're going to do everything that you need it to do. And when you need it to do more, you can either pay for the paid version that has more features, or look at moving to something like Adobe Premiere, which gives you an insane amount of control over your videos. But I warn you, it is really easy to waste money doing that because you're now paying for a subscription and you have to utilize that subscription, which was otherwise free. And next up is GoPros. I bought a GoPro right out the gate, spent a bunch of money on a GoPro right out the gate. One thing with GoPros is they're just like phones. They release a new model very, very often, and the old models still work, so there's a little bit of forced outdating that happens there. You can find a used GoPro that's still functional and it's cheap, get it, because generally the performance improvement for GoPros, while it is good and the latest ones have really great abilities, I don't think it's worth the hundreds of dollars of difference. One other mention I'll have here is that GoPros eat up batteries really fast, so you have to spend a lot of money on batteries, and depending on the generation, they have batteries that are not compatible with any of the other GoPro generations. So adding GoPros to your lineup will help for moving shots of cars. You can use them for shots of other cars, interior shots, things like that, or static shots, depending on how you're laying them up. I actually have a 360 GoPro that I really liked putting along the edge of a road for our Let's Hear It series, and it would allow me to get coming to and going from shots that I really liked. But GoPros do come with a warning. They make you techie because you now have a lot of batteries and a lot of pieces, and you're going to take time to set them up, and then you're going to forget to press record, or they're going to overheat sitting on the car because you had to sit a little bit longer out in the sun than you wanted to. These make your life finicky, but they do the job of what they're built for, which is action shots. And then the latest addition to my equipment is you right here. This is actually being filmed on a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 that I just picked up. This thing is going to use for my vlogging because it also has head tracking, and it's also going to be used later on for rollers. It actually has an AI tracking feature where you can get on your phone and you can draw a box around an object and it will track it, which is awesome for essentially automated rollers. I'm waiting for it to turn into spring so I could really fully test this thing out, but for now it's been working pretty good for my vlog equipment. I've also had it out in the shop up on a tripod so it can follow me around while I'm talking inside the engine bay or something, and I don't have to put a camera or have my cell phone out all the time and be talking behind the camera. But yeah, guys, I apologize for my voice if it sounded weird for this one. I'm a little sick. I just had this conversation and I decided to throw this video together because I thought, why not? This is something that makes sense to do. Let me know if you want to see more of this content, and if you have any thoughts or tips that you would give someone to starting their YouTube channel, leave in the comments below. Otherwise, good luck on starting your YouTube channel, and that'll be all for this one.